It's an old man's jacket. It's quilted, and so it's like toilet paper. Quilted toilet. You are terrible.
I was not very good. Hey everybody, how are you?
Hello. Hi. How are you?
Today we are excited to kind of talk about the final stage of one of our cultural disruptive ideas.
Yeah, it's a little different, a little out there. It's a little spicy,
but we like it.
But the question I have, don't you want to spend more time with your family?
Yes.
So
how do I sign up?
Well, here's a little bit of a breakdown. I don't have kids. I had a dog.
No.
It's okay.
Do you need a Kleenex? Bruce, we love you.
I got my quilted northern jacket. Bruce pass on. That's okay. But I know, Jared, you have a family.
I do.
And you love to spend time with them.
I do.
In fact, let me tell you a little something about Jared. Jared spies on his family during the day. P.S. Cassidy, it's creepy. Just kidding. No, Jared has cameras.
No, we have
security cameras.
Yeah, security cameras around the house, and so it's fun just to kind of pull them up during the day and see what the kids are doing. And I see it, and I say to myself, "Oh, I wish I could be there with them."
Yeah. And what does Cassidy feel about that? Does she want to be with them all the time?
Yeah, no, she totally does. She wants a break, and I want to pick Graham up from the bus stop, and I mean, we have different desires and wants, which is what we're really trying to talk about today is. What if job sharing existed between a spouse?
Yeah.
What I truly want is to be at home with my family more, and what Cassidy wants is more adult interaction because she deals with the chaos that happens during the day. And so if job sharing existed between us, it's a crazy idea, but really cool. So traditionally, I work 40 hours a week. So what if I worked 20 hours a week and Cassidy worked 20? Yeah. Or what if I worked 30 and she did 10? Or I did 32 and she did 8 or some variation of this idea? But we've never explored it because of job descriptions.
Yeah. And they're kind of annoying job descriptions. Here's my beef with job descriptions. Here's my Arby's roast beef with cheddar. Actually, that's a good thing, so I don't want to use that.
No.
Here's my problem with job descriptions. Yeah. Typically speaking, a job description says you fit into one mold and that's all you're going to do. Never deviate from this plan. And so I end up, right, you get that excuse. You hear people all the time say, oh, it's not my job description. And so they're like, yeah, okay, you're right, it's not. Yeah. And that causes so many issues. And so
it's also it forces people to become that job description, even if that's not who they inherently are. Yeah. And I don't like that. I don't like that you say, hey, person, you become this even if it's not your skill set. Because it might be out of their wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think? The problem with job descriptions is, and here's kind of a great example of this. Take the Justice League, for example, right? I'm a big fan of Batman. Superman, not so much. Although Henry Cavill, he is a looker. Yeah.
The whole Justice League.
I'm confused right now about things. But the Justice League, they come together and they kind of have their own... they each have kind of their own specialty, right? I've heard you say before, Batman, you look great in a pair of tights. And Spider-Man, you do too. Oh, the confusion again.
Yeah, man.
But the problem here is that, they're not a problem, but the good thing about the Justice League is they all have kind of their own special skills. Yeah. And they're good at them. And they bring those all to the table. And what do you get when you have all of these people that have these awesome skills? You get a Justice League, right? You get this amazing team of people that can accomplish all sorts of things together. And I think that's when you're talking about bringing your spouse in as part of that, as part of your job sharing experience. Yeah. I think that's one of the main reasons why. You both have skills in certain areas, strengths in certain areas, and if you put those two together, that's going to be an awesome team member.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you put people in their area of strength, you get exactly that. Yeah. You get a Justice League, and you get Batman, who has all the money, and you get Superman, who can fly, and Spider-Man...
Laser vision.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, wrong team. Wrong team.
Superheroes.
Superhero.
We like them. But that's okay. Another benefit is the law of diminishing returns. Yeah. Now, if you haven't heard of the law of diminishing returns, it basically says you do your most productive work for a while, and then you hit a wall, and it's an invisible wall. But that invisible wall is where you begin doing busy work. Because we're told we need to work for 40 hours a week, so we do things that looks like we're busy. We send emails that don't need to happen.
I create spreadsheets that don't need to be created.
That nobody looks at. Yeah. And we attend meetings that don't need to happen, but they make us feel good, and they don't actually improve the bottom line or move the business along. Yeah. And so if we can change that idea and just do those things that matter, then all of a sudden the law of diminishing returns has a huge impact, because if I only work for 20 hours a week and I have to do a full 40 hours in that 20 hours, I'm only going to do what matters and not do the fluff. I'm going to cut the fat.
Yeah, and the other thing with it, like, this is one of the things that I've noticed and I personally experienced. I go home at the end of the day and I talk to my wife about work. And wouldn't it be great if she could be involved with that, or if I could be involved with her situation, right? Like that nighttime or that bedtime talk becomes about work. Yeah. In a positive way, right? Because we're both sharing the same experiences. We're both part of it. And so when I go home and my wife and I are talking, hey, did you go to that meeting that we talked about? And how did that turn out? What do I need to be prepared for, right? That nighttime talk or that bedtime talk, whatever you want to call it, isn't just looking at Instagram or watching cartoons. Because that's what I do.
I'm not surprised.
I love SpongeBob. You can't go wrong. Bob's Burgers, give it a try. That's hashtag Bob's Burgers. Check us out, Bob. Anyway, that conversation is now actually worthwhile conversation.
Yes. Like, I've noticed that I have to leave my family where I want to be to go to work, and it feels like a punishment almost. But if work becomes part of our family and I job share with my wife, then those conversations become part of our family, and we become happier when we go to work because it's an extension of who we are as a couple.
It's a family It's a family experience.
Oh, it just like would make a huge difference, right?
Absolutely.
And
go ahead.
The difference is that, like, the spare time that I have, right, as a father, now that I'm at home 20 hours a week instead of at work for a full 40, I get to spend time doing things with my kids that I normally don't get to do. Like I mentioned, I get to pick Graham up from the bus stop. I never get to do that and hear firsthand how school went. I always get, like, the afterthoughts and the leftovers, which isn't as important. But, like, even if you're not a parent, then maybe you get to go to school if you're in school, or maybe you get to do that side project or hobby that you want to, or make your entrepreneurial dreams become a reality. And there's a lot of things you can do to fill that time with that would be very worthwhile to you in your professional career.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, because you kind of run into a little bit of a problem here, right? Because I know a lot of you are probably thinking, yeah, this is a little weird. This isn't going to work in every scenario. And you're right. It's not going to work in every scenario. But you have to kind of take a look at those jobs that share similar responsibilities or similar kind of fields and apply this concept in those areas. So, for example, HR and accounting, right? That's a great position because they kind of share some of the same similar responsibilities.
Very similar skill set, right? Yeah. I think they translate.
Yeah. Not so much in other places. Software developers and lawyers.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, sometimes they aren't going to marry very well. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be married.
Sure.
But the positions aren't necessarily going to work out that way. But you do have to keep that in mind. Obviously, it's not going to be appropriate for every scenario, but there are a lot of things that do actually work out.
So as we've talked to people about this, they've come up and they said, well, I'm not married, or like, what are some other examples? And a really simple thing you could do. Ask yourself, would job sharing work for you in your relationship? Blake, would job sharing work for you in your relationship?
Yes, it would. For me, it would. Absolutely.
Yes. So, okay, will it work? Oh, here we now have an example of yes.
Someone says
it's
yes.
very simple.
Like, I would love to work with my wife.
Yeah, and she has a similar skill set that could complement in very good ways. So, like, it would work for the Beards. So, would it work for you? That's the question. And, like, you have to decide that. And if the answer is no, it'd be too complicated, then the answer is no, it won't work for that position and for that company.
Oh, simple. You know what? I'm not sitting there with my back my arm forced behind my back. I'll do it. Right? It doesn't work that way, right? So it's not forced. You don't have to do this. It's just something. It's a concept where I get to spend more time with my family, and that job becomes a family job.
Totally.
That company's a family company.
Okay, so it's not for every company. Some organizations won't like it. It's not for every relationship. It could potentially lead to divorce for some people, which is not that, like, this is trying to strengthen marriages and families. So, like, if it's not going to work for your relationship, it's not going to work for your company, it's not going to work for your position, don't do it. But if it would work, we would love to help implement that. Yeah. Like, man, this is such a cool idea. It's so disruptive, forward-thinking. People would love it, but we need companies that are willing to disrupt their culture. Welcome to cultural disruption. That's what we're trying to do.
Don't forget to subscribe.